Hey guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and today we are checking out the trailer for one of Amazon Prime's latest movies called The Tomorrow War. Let's get into it.
Okay, none of you are my child. Has anyone seen Miri?
Okay, interesting. He's got corded headphones in. Shout out to Chris Pratt for repping the old school. Oh, okay. So it's set in 2022 because you saw the little Qatar World Cup there.
We are fighting a war 30 years in the future.
Is this a joke?
Our enemy is not human. We need you to fight.
I got drafted.
I will be back.
Why is this happening? What about the teachers' deferment and the veterans' deferment?
If I don't go, they're going to draft you in my place.
Okay, interesting. 30 years in the future, and we've already dialed in time travel. Yeah, I mean, so traditionally throughout history, when you have drafts, they're usually draft lotteries. And what happens is that they will come up with some sort of lottery-based system. A country can only train so many soldiers at once. And so they have to find a way to not draft a million or their entire adult, usually male population at once. They have to sort of cycle it in. And so they'll have what's called a draft lottery. And in Vietnam, for example, it was done by birth date. They would draw certain birth dates out. Actually, I think it was televised, and would read who was going to have a high draft number, right? So birth dates that were going to be drafted first and low draft numbers were going to be drafted last. So you could be an 18-year-old male in, 1967, and if you happen to be born on the right day, you might be among the last people that would be drafted.
But if something does happen to me,
But the idea of drafting people in their stead actually dates back to the Civil War, that the wealthy could purchase draft deferments for their children. They could literally just hand the government money in lieu of having to have their children serve in the Civil War. Obviously, this was seen as an egregious abuse of the system and very unfair as it was. And of course, in the Vietnam era, you saw the college deferment, which functioned the same way, right? Because disproportionately, you would see wealthy families' children go to college. And so they would get a college deferment. Sometimes there would be dubious medical reasons for deferment that may accompany certain private practice doctors who would state, oh, my client has bone spurs, irregular color vision, or has another like chronic but sort of hard to diagnose disorder or disease, but would keep a draft board from looking at you.
you and Miri will be taken care of.
If something happens to you, Dan, 70% of draftees do not return.
Sometimes a man does what's best for his family, not himself.
Move your shirt, please.
Wait, what is this for?
It was just a test.
Oh, a seatbelt. Was it a driving test? No? You don't have jokes in the future?
Okay, one thing I gotta say, in my experience, Chris Pratt, I think, is actually a great action hero because he's kind of a goofy dude, right? In my experience, some of the baddest soldiers I knew were goofy weirdos. And I don't know what it is. I think you just have to evolve this like weird, macabre kind of just like you can't take anything too seriously. You should take combat extremely seriously, but at some point, if you take everything as the like life or death situation that it is, your stress level will just skyrocket and stay there. And so your only option to cope is to just develop this like weird sense of humor about it, right? Like just I can't describe it other than that. Just a really bizarre, dark sense of humor. And I think Chris Pratt actually manages to capture that dichotomy really well, where he's both a serious action hero who takes a scary or stressful situation very seriously, but is almost simultaneously views it as a kind of an absurd, laughable thing.
This device facilitates your jump to and from the future war.
1 minute to jump.
Oh, here, buddy. Take that. You just look around like that.
How are you so calm?
Long story.
Are you ex-military?
Yeah. Kind of a short story, I guess.
3, 2.
Okay, yeah, I'm like fascinated by this right there. Like you've invented time travel, and you're sending people through time, and you're giving them presumably sort of advanced weapons, I guess, but they have no standard uniforms and no really not enough training to operate their weapon. I'm having a hard time understanding why this would be, especially if you're talking about, I mean, I'm curious to know in the writing, right? Time travel is always weird, and I'm not going to go on a lecture about why time travel in movies is inconsistent. Maybe you can just jump people between two temporal points, but you'd think you'd have enough time to train them. And if you don't, here's the other thing. This is again how a lot of, I think, European militaries operate, where they have a core active duty component and they maintain stores of equipment, but really they know that in the event of a large-scale conflict, the active duty corps will become trainers and facilitators of a larger draft army. So someone like Chris Pratt, again, someone with real military experience, they would probably draft them realistically and be like, hey, you are now a basic training firearms instructor, right? So your experience, right? We know we don't have to teach you how to use firearms. So you are going to every day spend an entire day at the range training draftees, right? Who have never seen a firearm in their lives. That is actually to me, the most efficient use of it, it leverages that military expertise. I assume Chris Pratt's character will have a combat record, right? He had a bunch of OCP in his closet and seemed to know his way around looked like a XD maybe or a SIG. Yeah, so that's my first thought, is that, you would want to leverage, especially if they were a teacher, right? You'd want to leverage very desirable skills. The classic example being J. Robert Oppenheimer in the Manhattan Project, right? He was actually, functionally, he was drafted into the Manhattan Project out of the university he was teaching. J. Robert Oppenheimer was not drafted and given a rifle because they said, hey, you have a very special skill set and we're going to use it in a very special way. And someone, again, I look at, you're a teacher and you're a combat vet. You have a very specific set of skills that we want you to use. I mean, my first thought is they should be a combat instructor, right? Even if your people are getting, 7 days, 10 days of training, that's still something.
In 11 months' time, all human beings in the future will be wiped from the face of the earth. Unless you help us.
So wait, okay, I'm confused. Did they mean 11 months from the first frame of the movie, right? From the present, from the 2022 World Cup? 11 months from there, 2023, all human life will be extinguished. In which case, it raises the question: what are the people from 30 years in the future doing? Or do they mean that 30 years plus 11 months, they forecast all human beings will be eliminated? And again, my problem always with alien invasions is, if your goal is to exterminate all humans, your best bet is to use germs or poison, right? Just suck all the oxygen out of the air. Stick in some chemical that binds to oxygen and renders it unbreathable to humans, and just let them die off, Or use a biological agent, right? You wouldn't have to send human-sized aliens to, slug it out, especially if you have faster-than-light travel technology. But, again, who knows, man? Maybe the aliens are just like a bug species that kind of float through space. I mean, there's so much creative writing they can do.
I was trying to save my daughter. If I gotta save the world to save her, then I'm gonna do it.
This is the end. The human species will disappear from the face of the Earth. We are literally living on borrowed time.
There's still a chance that we can stop this war from ever happening. So we gotta fight.
I mean, they definitely didn't. This is definitely seems like a great adventure movie. I mean, they're all over the place. Chris Pratt's in the Arctic for some reason. He's in the ocean. He's on a helicopter in the desert.
Well, it's nice knowing you.
Okay, so here's the other thing that I think is interesting is the Tomorrow War. It, to me, evokes the famous novel, The Forever War, which, talking about Vietnam, was a novel sort of in response to the Starship Troopers golden age of military alien fighting novels. And in The Forever War, it depicts a group of soldiers who fight a war with aliens, but because of relativity, they have to travel near the speed of light, light years and light years away, to fight this war with aliens. And they do so, and they come back, or basically what happens is they fight their war, come back, they realize that actually the peace treaty had long been signed, they fought for nothing, society has changed dramatically since they've been gone, and there's actually a few iterations of it. It's an excellent novel and absolutely worth reading, but it's meant to deal more with, all good science fiction, the real-world alienation that Vietnam draftees felt. This looks nothing like that. In fact, I was sort of hoping, and maybe it will, maybe it's a series that will explore those themes as well, but I'm really, really curious. Man, flashlights, guys. Anyway, this looks really cool. I'm really excited. I hope you guys are as well. And of course, be sure to check out the merch store, check out the channel, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.